When it was released, Watch Dogs was one of my most anticipated games in a long time. The trailers and all the hype behind it got me really excited, but once it came out, I was very disappointed by the overall product. There was a lot of promise though, and I had always hoped if they did a sequel that it would end up being a huge improvement because there was the makings of what potentially could be great. Well, Watch Dogs 2 is now out, and is it an improvement and is it worth checking out, or is this just another big title that can't quite hack it? While Watch Dogs 2 is a sequel to the original, it doesn't have a whole lot of references, just some minor stuff here and there, so if you didn't play it, you can easily jump into Watch Dogs 2 with no problem. Watch Dogs 2 is of course another open world sandbox game, and this time it's taking place in San Francisco. While I've never visited there, it's exactly how I would picture San Francisco in my head, with a lot of the different districts and neighborhoods, and of course plenty of landmarks. There's also a good amount to do throughout the city, with not only missions, side missions, but also various clothing shops and even coffee shops for you to visit. There's a lot going on overall in the San Francisco of Watch Dogs 2. The whole hacking aspect returns here in Watch Dogs 2, which made the original Watch Dogs stand out amongst all the open world sandbox games. I feel like it has been improved upon, though there is only a handful of things that I noticed that were completely different from the original Watch Dogs. But I feel like everything has been done just as well, if not better, here with Watch Dogs 2 from the hacking standpoint. You can do little minor hacking things, as well as, of course, big stuff like hacking security cameras, messing with walkie-talkie communications, and hacking traffic lights, which is easily still one of my favorite things. Doing a high-speed chase and then being able to screw with the people trying to chase you is still really fun and was one of the best things of Watch Dogs 1, and it's still great here in Watch Dogs 2. Well, of course, I'm still working my way through the game's main story. It seems to be broken up into about 9 or 10 main plot points, with each of them having several main missions within them before you end up finishing up that particular objective. You have the overall goal of taking down the evil Bloom, but you're going to be doing a lot of other main missions to build towards that. The big mechanic of the entire game, as far as progression, has to do with your fan base for your hacking group known as DedSec. You're basically doing all kinds of tasks, and this is for the main missions, side missions, and just other random odd jobs here and there that will actually go towards your fan base. And the more fans you have, you'll level up, and that's how you earn a lot of the game's experience points that you use to gain new abilities. While I'm very much enjoying the main story thus far, I have noticed a trend of very similar main mission types, with me basically having to go to a specific compound, building, or area, go in it, find a computer, hack it, and then escape. You can do this in a variety of ways. You can go in just with brute force and strength and just run in and gun down everyone that gets in your path, which is my preferred method because I'm not really big into stealth. But if you're into stealth, there are a lot of cool ways that you can do stealth in the game. You have drones as well as little vehicles that you can initiate and bring out that will be able to kind of go through smaller vents and the like, that will be able to mess with the security guards or even hack things from a distance. There is a decent amount of ways to tackle each of the main missions, even if thus far from my main story playthrough, there seems to be a lot of similarities between main story missions. One of the biggest disappointments I had with the original game was the main character of Aiden. I felt that he was drab and boring, and I could never really get into the main story. There were some great side characters in Watch Dogs 1, but Aiden was just terrible to me. I think that's been greatly improved here. The personality alone of Marcus is so far different from Aiden that has already made the game so much more enjoyable to play. There's life in the cutscenes. The side characters are just as good, if not better, though I'm still kind of learning everything about them as I'm going through the game's main story. But overall, the story aspects, I think, are told far superior than they were in Watch Dogs 1. I will say, though, there's a little bit too much real-world comparisons in Watch Dogs 2 as far as some of the stories that I've done so far, like a Scientology style of church and a Tom Cruise-esque character and messing with a pharmaceutical CEO that's dealing with rap music. While some may like this and be like, oh, I get that, it's like this, so that's cool to play, to me, I'd rather have completely original ideas than ones taken from actual real-world events, but it's not dampening my experience very much so far. There's also two different types of other missions that you're going to be doing, online and side missions. Side missions range from your typical fare, from racing and go-karts and motorcycles to doing tag events with graffiti, and then for the online stuff, you have online co-op missions, which work similar to the main story missions. A lot of them have you going into a compound and quickly having to hack everything or destroy evidence or whatever it may be, and then get out without being seen or without dying, but you can do it all along with a friend. Though the online connectivity as of right now wasn't the best, but I'm sure that will be ironed out as the game, of course, has just launched. There's also a hacking style of online play as well as a bounty hunting style of online play as well. One thing that returns that I like in the game as well as the UI that's mostly handled through the game's cell phone. Similar to GTA 5, don't get me wrong, but the mini-map is handled through this, which I think actually ends up working really well. It's one of the better mini-maps I've dealt with in a lot of open-world sandbox games. I like the apps that you're able to buy and use, such as like a Spotify-type app where you're able to find new music while you're going around. You're also able to get a Uber-style app where you can do like an Uber-style mini-game where you get to worry about your rating and get people from destination, kind of like doing taxi driving missions in other open world games, and you'll gain fans and money for doing so. You also have a app that kind of works like Swarm or the old Foursquare, similar to what it was in Watch Dogs 1, but it's handled a bit easier here in Watch Dogs 2, and there's also a few other things you can do in apps you can mess with on the phone. So overall, I really like that aspect of the game. When it comes to the game's combat, everything's mostly handled through guns, as well as you do have melee attack as well. It has an interesting melee-like weapon that is kind of like a keychain-esque thing that you're able to swing around and knock people out with. There's a good variety to the guns, ones you'll be able to find. You can even 3D print new guns from your headquarters, which is a bit unrealistic, I think, but also pretty cool that you're able to do such a thing. Gun combat works pretty well. You can do an aim assist or not have that on, and there's a lot of cover system to the game. I did have some issues as far as being able to activate running away from cover or being able to vault when I wanted to, or sometimes going from one piece of cover to another even when I didn't want to. Sometimes you can activate a piece of cover from way off in the distance and your character will just start darting towards it and maybe run right into the line of fire. Once I kind of get used to how the game handles everything, I didn't really have too many problems, but it did take a little bit to get used to. One thing that also returns from Watch Dogs 1, which I didn't really like then, and honestly I'm not a big fan of now, is the way that you kind of hack into mainframes. Basically you have these grids that you can see lines going off of them, and you have to kind of connect the circuits by turning things, activating locked circuits, and the like. If you play Watch Dogs 1, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. These return, and there is a good amount of them, and honestly, they're one of the few things I don't really like about the game, but I guess they needed something to include as far as the hacking instead of just running in and quickly pressing triangle to activate whatever and then getting out. From the technical side of things, I haven't run into any major glitches or bugs. The game didn't crash on me. I've put about 7 to 8 hours into it so far and haven't really run into many glitches or technical issues. There was a few minor things. A couple of clipping issues, some weird things when it came to the parkour style of running you were able to do. You can sometimes jump off of stuff and do flips and all, which sometimes seemed inappropriate for what I was jumping off of. And there was a couple of times where cars, I couldn't hijack them, even though I was standing right next to it. I hit the hijack button and he wouldn't do anything. I don't know if it was something preventing me from doing so or it just messed up and I couldn't take that particular car. Either way, it's been very, very minor stuff throughout my playthrough so far. Watch Dogs 2 is available for $59.99 and of course has a full trophy list in Platinum. In fact, it's even easier, it looks like, than Watch Dogs 1 trophy list. So if you thought that one was easy, Watch Dogs 2 seems to have an even easier trophy list overall, though there's a couple of little things that may be a minor nuisance with online. Of course, I'm not going to give a rating to the game as I'm still working my way through the main story, but from everything I've seen, it's a big step up from Watch Dogs 1. If that game had been what this was, I would have loved that game. It would have been one of my top games for sure when it was released. So I'm really loving Watch Dogs 2. I can't wait to play more of it, and that's going to wrap up this early review. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.